In this episode, we're going to design the incident management team in a way that makes sense to brand new learners, focusing on roles, authority, and escalation paths rather than technical specialties. Many people think incidents are solved by the smartest technical person in the room, but incidents are usually solved by coordination, clear decisions, and steady communication, with technical work happening inside that structure. When a team is designed well, people don't waste time asking who is in charge, who is allowed to approve disruptive actions, or who should notify leadership. They know it, and they act, and the incident moves forward. When a team is designed poorly, the same incident becomes chaos, because people duplicate work, miss handoffs, or argue about ownership while the attacker keeps moving. The goal here is to help you build a clear mental model of the team, what each role is responsible for, and how authority and escalation should flow so the response stays disciplined. A useful way to start is to separate two ideas that beginners often blend together: technical response and incident management. Technical response is the hands-on work of investigating systems, collecting evidence, understanding what happened, and applying containment or recovery actions. Incident management is the coordination layer that makes sure the right technical work happens in the right order, with the right approvals, and with the right communication. In many organizations, the same person might do both in small incidents, but the roles are still conceptually different, and the exam often tests whether you can recognize that difference. An incident manager's job is not to find every malicious file, but to reduce ambiguity, assign ownership, manage priorities, and keep stakeholders aligned. If you imagine an orchestra, technical responders are musicians, and incident management is the conductor who keeps the music coherent. Without the conductor, talented musicians can still produce noise rather than a coordinated performance. That is why team design matters so much for incident leadership. The incident manager role sits at the center of the design, and it's worth describing it in plain language. The incident manager owns the process, meaning they track tasks, maintain the official timeline, enforce communication discipline, and make sure decisions are documented. They are responsible for keeping situational awareness up to date, which means they constantly ask what is confirmed, what is still unknown, and what needs to happen next. They also ensure that the incident's goals are clear, such as limiting harm, restoring critical services, and protecting evidence. Importantly, the incident manager does not have to be the highest authority, but they do need the authority to run the process and assign work. In many scenarios, the correct action is to establish or strengthen this central coordination role, because it prevents drift and reduces duplicated effort. For beginners, the simplest mental picture is that the incident manager keeps the team organized so the technical work can be effective. Authority is the next concept, because incidents create moments where someone must choose between competing values like speed, safety, and business continuity. Authority means the recognized power to approve actions and accept risk on behalf of the organization. Some actions are low impact and can be taken quickly, like collecting evidence or opening an investigation, while others are high impact and require business approval, like taking a critical service offline or disabling access for a whole department. A good team design makes these boundaries explicit, so responders don't freeze at decision points or take actions beyond their mandate. Authority also includes the power to commit resources, such as pulling in additional staff, involving outside partners, or escalating to executives. When an exam scenario includes a major disruptive choice, the best answer often involves involving the right authority rather than pushing ahead alone. This is not bureaucracy for its own sake. It is risk management and accountability under pressure. A related role is the technical lead, which is the person responsible for directing the technical investigation and response work. The technical lead is not necessarily the most senior person in the organization, but they are the person who makes the technical work coherent, preventing multiple responders from working at cross purposes. They coordinate evidence collection, guide containment options, and help interpret findings so leadership can make decisions. In a well-designed team, the technical lead feeds information into the incident manager, who then turns that information into tasks, updates, and decisions. This separation matters because technical analysis can be deep and absorbing, and if the same person tries to manage coordination while also doing detailed investigation, they can lose track of communication and ownership. The exam often rewards the recognition that roles must be separated when complexity grows. For beginners, it's enough to understand that technical leadership is about the technical plan, while incident management is about the overall response plan. Another essential role is communications, because incidents create confusion and rumors, and communication can either stabilize the organization or make things worse. A communications lead is responsible for ensuring that messages are accurate, consistent, and approved, and that stakeholders receive updates appropriate to their needs. Internal stakeholders may need operational status and next steps, while executives may need risk and business impact summaries, and external audiences may require carefully controlled statements. A common mistake in incidents is letting many people communicate independently, which leads to conflicting information and loss of trust. That is why communication ownership should be explicit and why the incident manager often works closely with the communications lead to ensure updates align with the current verified facts. Even if a beginner has never managed an incident, they can understand this as a basic principle: one voice, consistent truth, and disciplined updates. In exam questions, actions that create communication discipline often score well because they reduce organizational harm. Legal and compliance involvement is another major part of team design, especially when incidents involve sensitive data or potential reporting obligations. The legal role is not to do technical work, but to help manage risk related to disclosure, regulatory obligations, contracts, and potential litigation. Compliance can help interpret internal policies and external requirements, ensuring that response actions and communications meet obligations. In some incidents, when PII or PHI might be involved, early involvement of legal and compliance can be essential, not because they slow response, but because they help prevent mistakes that can create additional damage later. A good team design defines when legal must be engaged, such as when certain triggers are met, so responders do not hesitate or argue. This also protects the incident manager because decisions are shared with the right stakeholders rather than made in isolation. The exam often tests awareness that incidents are not purely technical and that governance stakeholders must be included appropriately. Operations and business owners also need defined roles because they control systems and understand what the business can tolerate. Operations teams often implement containment or recovery actions, maintain services, and provide critical insight into how systems are supposed to behave. Business owners understand which processes are critical, what downtime costs, and what workarounds exist. If responders isolate a system without understanding its role, they may unintentionally create a business crisis. That is why the incident management team should include a path to quickly involve the right business owners and operations leads for impacted services. In plain language, you need someone who can answer the question, if we take this offline, what breaks and what is the alternative? This is where authority meets reality, because technical responders might know how to contain, but business owners help decide whether the cost is acceptable. Exam scenarios often reward answers that coordinate with operations and business stakeholders rather than acting in a purely technical bubble. Now let's focus on escalation paths, because escalation is how you move from local problem solving to broader organizational decision-making when needed. Escalation is not the same as panic, and it is not about blaming people. It is a planned mechanism to bring in the right authority, resources, or expertise. An escalation path should be clear about triggers, such as evidence of sensitive data exposure, rapid spread of malware, loss of critical service, or uncertainty that exceeds the team's ability to manage. It should also be clear about destinations, meaning who gets escalated to, like a senior security leader, an executive, legal, or an external partner. Escalation paths should be fast enough to matter, because escalation that happens late is often ineffective. For beginners, the concept is similar to calling emergency services when a situation exceeds what you can safely handle alone. A good team design makes escalation normal and expected when triggers appear, rather than something people hesitate to do. Authority and escalation also connect to the concept of pre-approval, because many escalation delays happen at predictable decision points. If certain actions are already authorized under defined conditions, the team can act quickly and then escalate with documentation rather than waiting for permission while harm spreads. That design reduces the number of times escalation is needed for routine containment actions, while preserving escalation for high-impact decisions. It also helps prevent unauthorized actions, because responders know which moves are within their authority and which require higher approval. In exam questions, you often see options that either over-escalate everything, which slows response unnecessarily, or under-escalate, which risks unapproved actions and inconsistent communication. The strongest answer is usually the one that escalates appropriately, meaning escalation is triggered by impact, uncertainty, or risk, not by discomfort. That is a subtle skill, but it is a core part of incident leadership. A practical way to design the team is to think about how information flows, because good incident response depends on moving reliable information to the people who need it. The technical lead needs to feed validated findings into the incident manager, who then updates the timeline, adjusts priorities, and assigns tasks. The communications lead needs accurate status from the incident manager to craft consistent updates for stakeholders. Legal and compliance need early notice when certain triggers occur, and they may advise on what can be said and when. Operations and business owners need to know what actions are planned and what impact to expect, and they provide constraints and priorities back to the team. When information flow is unclear, the team loses situational awareness, and people start acting on partial truth. This is why incident management is often described as the discipline of maintaining a single shared reality. The exam frequently tests whether you understand the importance of accurate status and controlled communication in maintaining that shared reality. A common misconception is that more people automatically means better incident response, but team size can actually increase confusion if roles are not clear. When too many people join without defined responsibilities, meetings become noisy, tasks are duplicated, and nobody feels accountable. A well-designed team uses roles and authority to scale intelligently, adding people when their contribution is clear and removing people from distractions when not needed. It also protects responders from burnout by ensuring tasks are assigned realistically and that rest and handoffs are planned. Even though beginners may not have experienced a long incident, they can understand the principle that tired people make mistakes and that sustained response requires structure. The exam may test this indirectly through questions about handoffs, task tracking, and maintaining accurate timelines. Strong team design is not only about solving the technical problem, but about sustaining disciplined work over time. Another critical aspect is making sure the team can operate even when normal communication is disrupted. During some incidents, systems may be down, email may be unreliable, or trust in certain channels may be questioned. A mature team design includes alternate ways to coordinate and defines who can authorize those shifts. This is part of readiness because incidents often attack the very systems you rely on for coordination. The key for beginners is not to memorize specific tools, but to understand the principle that communication channels are dependencies and dependencies can fail. If a scenario implies disruption to normal communication, the best leadership move is often to establish a reliable alternate coordination method and ensure everyone knows where the source of truth lives. That supports accurate tracking and prevents rumors. It also reinforces authority, because someone must declare which channel is official. This kind of thinking shows up in incident leadership exams because it reflects real-world complexity. To close, designing an incident management team is about building a clear structure where work, authority, and information can move smoothly under stress. The incident manager runs coordination, the technical lead directs technical work, communications provides disciplined messaging, legal and compliance guide obligations and risk, and operations and business owners ensure actions align with reality and priorities. Authority defines who can approve which actions, and escalation paths define when and how to involve higher authority or specialized resources. When these elements are clear, the team can move quickly without improvising governance, and the incident becomes a managed process rather than a chaotic scramble. That is the mindset the GCIL incident leader role is meant to reflect, and it is exactly what scenario questions tend to reward. If you can explain roles, authority, and escalation in plain language and show how they support clarity and accountability, you are demonstrating the core of incident leadership.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit DailyCyber.News.